Hi, everyone. Journal 91 today. I think it'll make more sense if I tell a story first than the journal will. So take yourself back, late 80s, early 90s, little Courtney. I'm in Salem, Oregon. And I'm, 9, 10, 11 years old. And there's this shop, there's this little store in West Salem in the Flats called King of Diamonds. Originally, it was a baseball card shop, and so that was my hobby when I was a little kid. The Bash Brothers, right, Canseco and McGuire. And then baseball cards kind of went out of fashion, so it became a comic book shop. Same location, same everything. Now the shelves had the brand new comics on it. And then I eventually got replaced with Magic the Gathering, and that's around the time that my hobby was whatever they were selling. But in the 90, 91, something like that, that's when they were kind of at their peak as a comic book store. I still have a bunch. I sold a bunch of these on eBay, but I still have some of these from when I was a kid. And I got all these, the week they came out. So the Infinity Gauntlet, this became a movie. This is like a big, I don't know if I ever saw it as a movie, but it was like this giant Marvel movie, and it came from, there's the follow-up. This is the aftermath of the Infinity Gauntlet. But all of these comics, which, again, like the day they came out, maybe the week they came out, something like that, off the shelves. This one is interesting because, so it's the Punisher. There's a ton of them in here. I don't know, it's like 6, 7, 8, whatever comics. Part 1 of 7, there's probably 7. But yeah, so these Punisher ones, this 1991, he has this surgery and turns himself black, and then he starts to be hassled by police, and it's such the social commentary here, to be 10 or 11 at the time, was interesting. And notice Disney didn't pick that one up. There's no Marvel movie of that story. But then the most interesting thing I thought that was coming out at that time is like the death of all these huge characters. So there's Superman, right? The death of Superman. Here's Daredevil, right? Daredevil, falls from grace to his death. Batman, there's Batman having his back broken by Bane. There's his death. And at the time, whoa, what a time to be alive, 11-year-old, maybe I was 10, Courtney is thinking, because these are ancient institutions. Superman and Batman, these are old comics, and this is the end forever. Is what, like, gullible, little kid thinking, like, these have been going since the beginning of time, and this is it forever. We'll never see these again. What the perfect time to be 11 years old and reading these comics. And then the next month comes out, and on the shelves at King of Diamonds, there's Batman back from the dead, breaking up, like maybe not his back or anything, but like beating up Bane. There's Superman back from the dead. It says it on the comic, back from the dead. What the hell? And so I'm like, as a kid, I'm like confused. I don't get it. I thought there's some finality to death. That's what my parents told me. That's what I have learned, that like by a pet dying, that they don't come back. Like, what is happening here? But in the back of King of Diamonds, in the front, it's just the shelves, and you just buy whatever the newest thing is, which is all that stuff. But in the back, you can go find old comics. And so you can find stuff like this there. Let me do some, reconnaissance work about let's go through the history of comics. It's not like the internet existed. There's no Wikipedia. I couldn't look this stuff up. So all I can do is go look at the comics. And, there's Daredevil. There's Daredevil dying. Here's Batman dying. These are like from the 70s, these things. So there's Batman dying. And here's Superman. You guessed it. Superman's dying. And so all of these old comics, at this point, this is really when I sort of fell out of interest of comics, because death, there's no stakes. They just come back the next month. And then more and more comics keep coming faster and faster, more and more comics. And like, okay, I don't know. I'm not really interested in the storytelling. And then Magic, cards took over. But then fast forward the world to, I think it was like 2014, but I wasn't watching it at this time. There's this show Gotham came out, like GCPD, that all they ever yell is GCPD. But it was like a couple years ago. Marie and I always have a wind down, something we put on at the end of the night. We're done working, we're done being productive, our brains aren't functional. And so we'll just sit on the sofa, and she's always on the left, I'm always on the right, we'll put something on. And sometimes there's some things that look good. And so one of those times, we're like, let's just watch this like Gotham thing. And part of it was sort of sentimental, where it takes me back to being like 11 years old and going to the comic book store. And what made it so, where that nostalgia came from is the bad guys always die. And then they just come back to life, like the next scene. And so immediately, like, this is comics. This is like exactly what they do. This was my discovery as an 11-year-old of how the Marvel Universe or DC and how all these things work. And I guess that would be DC. And so I'm sort of interested and it's funny, but then Joker just keeps coming back. Lazarus has nothing on Joker. He just keeps coming back. And that's not storytelling that I connect with. Maybe it was like nostalgia for like a little kid me. But the storytelling, there's no stakes. You know, if life isn't worth anything, if you lose it, the writers just give you another one in the next episode. I'm not invested. That's not interesting to me. I can't emotionally connect with death. And if you can't connect emotionally with death, what can you connect with? But then opposite that, I don't know that George R.R. Martin went too far. I don't know that he was like the opposite in A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones. There's a lot of death in that though. And there's a point where if there's too much death, I lose investment there too. It's just every page, I'm just tired of it. I can't connect. Okay, here's another one. You just grow tired of it. And think about drummers, 80s and 90s, like rock drummers, like 80s and 90s, and the crash, right? Like that thing. If they hit it too much, if it's like every other beat, they're hitting that. It's fatiguing. You know, it's like a minute into the song, you've hit it 25 times. This doesn't energize me. I think the best drummer for storytelling is Jimmy Chamberlain. He's from the Smashing Pumpkins. He never hits the crash. He'll go entire songs. He won't hit it a single time. But then when he does hit it, it elevates above the landscape of the song and it moves. You get the shivers, the chills or whatever. And so that I think is good storytelling. Good storytelling is you're reserved, you're subtle, and then that way the crash or the death resonates. That hits harder. And so that's what this journal is about. Let's get to it. Hopefully it'll make some sense. And it's about cats, this journal. And it's about sense and nonsense, gibberish. And students okay, let me just read. Journal 91, Saturday, December 14th, 2024, on Deaf and Awesome Bests. Hi, everyone. Fact. Saying things can be interesting. It depends on what you're saying and how you say it. For example, if I send an email to a student with registration instructions in the subject line, the probability that it will be read is exactly 0%. If I add, "This is really important, so please read it," the odds will be unchanged. That's like trying to get a cat to care about the picture you just took of it. Look, it's you. Hey, Big Pan, right here. Whatever that onomatopoeia is for the cat call noise. Big Pan, look. Big Pan doesn't give a shit. And neither does any other cat or student. However, if I change the subject line to say, "Your cat just died," my email's readership increases to 100%. Or at least that was true a few years ago when I ran the experiment. In person, getting people to pay attention to my instructions is similarly difficult. Okay, listen up, I'll say to a group of students in an advising session. Here's how to figure out which classes you still need to fulfill your degree requirements. The sentence that follows will be heard by no one. But if I say, "Whoa, holy cow, look," every single student will stop what they're doing and look. It doesn't matter what I'm pointing at. I'll have their undivided, logarithmically multiplied attention. Whoa, holy goodness almighty. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Look at this. As I point to a paragraph of gibberish, such as, "Every cement factory has at least one gypsum crusher, or a bale of linen, upholstered seat whistle transformer, fully automatic braid embroidery probe ointments for a grape grub in its larval chamber, pneumatically sprung rubber connection of beam splitting prisms. Recompression uses bundled impression cylinder funnel tongs. Is it my swivel-mounted plumb knob tube center refractor? Centrifugal pulp water pump for glazing sheet tooth hand compositor? Only 4 retractable antenna hole cassette compartment ear cups. Hairdresser's cape with inserted lap trotter. Anything with a curry comb gag bit felling wedge measures a baby's head using an electric gutter bracket galley spindle, and all weights are recorded on a suspension damper notice board. Or else there's an abundance of pea tendrils with millstone casing rump flank kneading pretzel, but head dander increases. This crupper gullet cable winch turns the gas turbine bypass switch. Only hotel porter bulky wicker coupling hose. Hydraulic chippers dividing width of web is does triangular, so they eat fish stick sandwiches. But if oat grass lubricates a rubber roller trolley wire, stop the bogey open discharge wagon. Rear bunk saddle pineapple weevil? Yes. Bubbles form in electro-optical shampoo basins? False. It's caused by a semi-mounted cream separator, leg of mutton, knuckle trotter with shin. That paragraph has no meaning at all, yet people will read it as long as someone shouts, "Whoa!" about it first. Those same people will ignore important instructions because they're meaningful. It's an interesting phenomenon. I think it explains why so many readers pay attention to Herculean fantasy heroes, all that shouting and excitement with no substance. Me, though, I prefer subtlety. I wish someone would make a movie about a geriatric Hercules whose back and knees are terrible. Hey, Gildas! That's his wife. Gildas, could you help me get my socks on? He shouts from the bedroom. I feel like that would humanize him and allow us to feel his struggles, see ourselves in his situation. Isn't that the reason we root for every underdog? We're not cheering for a stranger, we're cheering on ourselves. But then we need an overdog, someone who, unlike us, is excelling, so we can wish ill upon them. It's hardly surprising that ill adopted a slang definition of excellent. What's more surprising is that awesome has come to mean nothing at all. I'll call you at 3. Awesome. Gas is cheaper at the next station. Awesome. I won the lottery. Awesome. I thought you'd be more excited than that. Another word that has been circumcised of its awe is best, as in best X ever. Solve for X and you'll have found a dull noun and a lie. We seem to have lost a sense of gradation in our descriptions. In fantasy literature, everything is now Herculean. Page after page is packed with awesome bests to capture the reader's attention. And gratuitous death has become one more way to awesomize any scene. As a consequence, your cat just died might not be enough to trick tomorrow's students into reading my emails. All right, that's it. So in my book, The Crown and the Cage God, this being my book, there's no appearance of the word awesome anywhere or any other word that's been like adulterated out of its like definition lineage. Those don't mean anything. Like, so if I'm in the kitchen's right there, and if I'm in that, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make some pancakes. It's like a sentence that I make. And if somebody says awesome, I don't want to make the pancakes anymore. Is the feeling, the wonder, the sensation that's like washing over you difficult to describe? Like any attempted description is a poor receipt for the like divine experience that you're feeling. If that's true, I don't know, maybe there's a better way to describe it than awesome, but I guess awesome applies. But if that's not true, or even if it is true, I think we can do a better job at coming up with descriptions for our feelings, instructions, making things meaningful. It adds length to do that. You have to use more words. The Crown and the Cage God, my book, there are more total words in here than if I were to just truncate everything with words like awesome. I don't do that. I put real heart into these sentences, real meaning into them. But I'm going to end there. But if like comic books and words like awesome and onomatopoeias and whatever, if that connects with you, and death on every page, or death on every page and then revival on the next page, if that stuff is entertaining to you or gives you some satisfaction, and GCPD and whatever, if that brings you joy, or hitting the crash every 2 seconds, whatever, I hope you enjoy those things. Maybe they're not for me. It doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're written for a different audience. Stuff that you love, stuff that you hate. Maybe I'm the inverse of that, and that's fine. But I hope we all find whatever media, whatever storytelling, whatever art connects with us. I hope you find it too. Okay.